Okay, so we're going to start off today by talking about the splenius muscles. And splenius has two parts, a splenius capitis. Capitis refers to the fact that the muscle is inserting on the skull. And a splenius cervicis, which refers to the fact that it's inserting on the cervical region. So before we go ahead and talk about the two parts of the splenius muscle, let's first look at some landmarks, some osteological landmarks for its attachment. So here, right in the middle, putting a little X on it, of the occipital bone, on the posterior aspect is the external occipital protuberance. And extending laterally from the external occipital protuberance is the superior nuchal line. And that sort of points you directly towards the mastoid process, which is actually part of the temporal bone. It's this bump that you'll feel just posterior to your ear. And connecting to the external occipital protuberance is a ligament called the ligamentum nuchae that connects the spinous processes of all the cervical vertebrae, goes up to the occipital bone, and runs on that ridge on the posterior part of the occipital bone, and that is the ligamentum nuchae. All right. So let's look at the origins of our splenius capitis and splenius cervicis. Splenius cervicis takes origin from the spinous processes in the thoracic vertebrae, so spinous processes of T3 to T6, so we'll draw a little line there. And then it extends superiorly and laterally and wraps around the deeper intrinsic muscles of the back to insert on the transverse processes of cervical vertebrae C1 to C3. So the upper part will go there, and the lower part wraps underneath and goes to there. And so this is your splenius cervicis. Okay, splenius capitis, I'll just change the color a little bit, is going to come from T4. So there's a slight overlap in the origins of the capitis and cervicis. So spinous process of T4 all the way up to the spine, to all superior spinous processes, and then the lower half-ish of the ligamentum nuchae. And capitis means, of course, that it's going to the skull. So it's going to insert on the lateral third of the superior nuchal line. So the most upper fibers will have the more medial attachment. And then the lowest fibers will end up going all the way around to the mastoid process. And that is your splenius capitis. Now, both of them being intrinsic muscles of the back will be innervated by the dorsal rami of spinal nerves. The capitis will be more innervated by the sort of middle spinal nerves. So C3, 4, 5-ish. And the cervicis portion will be innervated by the dorsal rami of more lower, more inferiorly positioned spinal nerves. The actions of the splenius muscles depend on whether you contract them on just one side or both sides. So if you have unilateral contraction, then that means we're only contracting the splenius muscle on, let's say, the right side, which would be the ones that we've drawn here. If we contract it on the right, then you will rotate the head and neck to the right. So you have ipsilateral rotation right? If you contract the capitis portion, you have ipsilateral rotation of the head, and if you contract the cervicis portion, you have ipsilateral rotation of the neck. If you do bilateral contraction, then the rotational components will cancel each other out, right? So if you contract both right and left splenius muscles simultaneously, the right one will want to rotate the head to the right, and the left one will act to rotate the head to the left. And these two actions are the exact opposite, so they will cancel each other out, and the end result of bilateral contraction of splenius will be extension. So if you contract splenius capitis, then you will have extension of the head and neck, and if you bilaterally contract splenius cervicis, you will have bilateral extension of the neck.